one time someone asked me like, oh, what does it feel like being a female out here with all the guys? And I said something to the extent of, well, I'm pretty sure the bike doesn't know whether I'm a male or female, so it doesn't feel any different. Hey.
Dani, Diaz, I'm super excited to be talking to you today. Thank you very much for being on my podcast.
Yeah, thank you, Eric. I'm excited too.
Okay, yeah, no worries. I know you just came home from work. First of all, nickname, you're going to hate me. I'm going to say it anyways, is the triple D of Dr. Dani Diaz.
I don't want that to stick.
Oh, I'm so sorry. We'll cut it out of the podcast if you hate me. If you don't hate me, I'll leave it in. I try not to edit too much, okay?
All right.
We'll pause, and I will cut it if I have to.
Okay.
Honestly. Okay, so before we had started our recording, we had talked about camping. You're an avid camper. For whatever reason, you have a lot of camping gear in your house because of coronavirus and everything else.
Yeah.
But you've never done backpacking.
No.
What is your definition of backpacking?
Well, hey, I don't think I'm an avid camper, but I am very blessed with camping gear because I have no furniture right now. So I'm sitting on folding camping chairs, but backpacking. So I would love to backpack. Have not done it yet, but I live in a beautiful part of California where backpacking is very, very accessible. So I will hopefully soon. But backpacking is essentially like, it's not car camping. Like you carry all your stuff out. That's what you have, with you. And so it's a few days, kind of out in the wilderness, no vehicle, limited gear, basically everything you can carry on your back.
Right. Because when I think of backpacking, when I talk to my friends about backpacking, there's a bunch of guys graduated from college, going all over Europe in their gear and living on hostels, right? So I wasn't sure.
There is that too.
So I'm like, okay. So you mean pretty much like real camping?
Real camping, yeah.
Yeah. No glamping.
Oh, no. I'm not I don't think I'm a glamper. I mean, I had a truck up until 2 years ago, and I would like car camp, I guess, but like we would drive the truck out to a camping spot, like we would sleep in tents, all of that. So not like the trailer or the RV or anything like that. My dad and I would even actually, just to save money, because we were always a very low budget team, that's kind of why we bought a tent initially. We bought a tent, we bought an air mattress and sleeping bags, and we would go to track days. And if it was just a track day, we were like, all right, and we would sleep in the tent in the parking lot because it was cheaper.
That's awesome. That's great. I have no problem with that. I'm gonna use the Asian stereotype. I too am very cheap, so I'm frugal. I know how to spend my money, how to save money. So, 2 thumbs up kind of thing. That's amazing. Track days. Is that where the love of the motorcycling came from? Your parents or your dad specifically?
No, but I infected him with it. So I kind of dragged him down with me. I got the whole family into it. And then we kind of, none of us knew anything about it. And my dad and I especially kind of ran with it, and we learned together. And now he's to the point where I don't race very often. And he, last year, or maybe it was this year, he's like, maybe I can work with a team. Like, even if I don't get paid to do it, as long as they pay my travel and my stay and everything, like, I just want to, like, he just wants to be there. Even if I'm not there, obviously he'd rather me there, but no, he loves it just as much as I do. So
let me ask you this about your dad. Does he know how to handle a camera or, like a camcorder? Is he good with that kind of stuff?
Maybe.
Maybe. Because you know what? I think I've had a couple of people talk to me from teams that said we would love to have a vlog 24/7 about paddock, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I'm too busy to do that. But I could probably find you someone. And now your dad's like this perfect.
You can ask him. I don't think that's the job for him. He would rather be like taking tires to Dunlop and, making sure the pit area is all organized and things like that. Like that would be more his.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. It was just a shot into that. I'm always that kind of guy that just wants to put the people in the right place.
Yeah. I mean, maybe I just it's a talent of his that I don't know of, but yeah.
Exactly.
But...
My dad has reverted back to his teenage years. Like all he does, me and my mom and I, they just sit there, or my mom and my dad, all they do is they sit there and watch YouTube and they send me links constantly. And I'm like, I don't need to watch another cat video, Ma. I'm good. You have a dog?
I do have a dog. He's sitting right under me, staring at me right now. Puppy dog eyes.
You've had him for 3 years.
Have.
You have, yeah, you've
Yeah.
had him for 3 years.
Yeah. I was just agreeing with you. Sorry.
Huh?
I was just agreeing with you. Yes.
No. Okay, you have 3 dogs. I mean, what am I saying? You have a dog. Why did you decide to have a dog? Did you have him as a puppy?
Yeah, I got him when he was 6 months old. Oh, if I tell you like he's like,
Yeah, come on up.
by the way, he knows we're talking about him. This is Harley Davidson Diaz.
Oh my God, so cute.
He's a little bamf. He goes on like 10-mile hikes with me and stuff. He's like 10 pounds, and people are like, he's a princess dog. He is not. No. Anyway, it's gonna be a sad story if I tell you like the true story. So,
yeah, I'm up for it. I'll try not to cry.
All right, it might make me cry.
Oh, okay.
But no, I had a dog. I mean, I had dogs. I lived in the country, I grew up in the country, and so we had dogs and animals, mostly dogs and cats, like not crazy animals, or farm animals or anything, my whole life. And then when I was end of high school, I had a dog that was my dog. It was the first one that was my dog, and it was the best dog. He was just happy, like kind of dog that loved everything and everyone, and would like you play fetch with him and he'd like trip over himself, you know, and just roll around, and he was funny. But I wasn't there for this. But one day he ran across to the neighbor's yard because there were 2 other dogs, and one of them was a bigger dog because my dog was like 15 pounds, and he went up to the dogs like wanting to play, and one of the dogs grabbed him by the back of the neck and threw him down and broke his neck essentially. So he got up, stumbled, fell over. My dad ran over, was going to take him to the vet. He died in my dad's arms.
Aww.
And so, yeah, it was really hard on me and my dad, and we were both super attached to this dog. And so I couldn't get a dog for a while. I actually got a tattoo for that dog. Like 3 years after he passed, I think, or something like that. Because my dad and I would still get teary-eyed. And I'm like, I need to get this tattoo. But yeah, so it took me a while, and then I got to the point. I got him when I was like a year into grad school, which most people that went to grad school with me are like, you're insane for getting a dog through this program because it's a really intense program. But yeah, I was just like, no, I'm ready for a dog. And so my aunt, we went to shelters and just didn't find the right one. And then my aunt had this dog that she had him since he was born. She said he almost died as a puppy. And so she didn't want another dog, but she didn't want to give him to just, a random person. And so my dad talked me into it, and he said, if you, take the dog for a week. If you don't like the dog, it doesn't work, we'll just bring it back to your aunt. Go get him. So I took him for a week, and he was an angel. So good. And then I decided I was keeping him, and then he turned into a little terrorist. But he's a really good dog. He really is. So, yeah.
That's it. Okay. Yeah. Well, yeah, my dog's stories are less exciting than yours. But it had an happy ending. First of all, I don't have the dog anymore. But I had my dog. And anyways, I just in a point where in life where I was traveling so much that I couldn't take care of the dog. And I had realized that it was basically in dog hotels like every week or every other weekend. And I was just like, financially, it was a strain. Mentally speaking, for the dog, it was terrible because the dog would be really well behaved, and then you get it back the week after or the weekend after, and it'd be like the demon dog you never knew you had, right? It was overly hyper, it was chasing furniture. Anyways, it was no good. Yeah. So anyway, long story short is one day my friend calls from up in Ottawa. I'm based in Toronto. And he goes, hey, I've had cats, and my wife and I are never going to have kids. And I finally convinced her that we can try having a dog. He goes, "Can I take your dog for the week?" And you know how the story ends. The week turns into a month. Then I said, "I'm traveling till it's Christmas is coming up. Why don't you give it to me after Christmas?" Hey, I got to travel to, I think it was Barcelona at the time. I'm going to Barcelona anyway in February. Why don't you give it to me after? And I had to go to Hong Kong for like 3 weeks. And I go, "Why don't you give it to me in like May?" And then I'm like, "You know what, dude? How you liking the dog?" And they're like, "Oh, we love the dog. We love Velcro very much." I go, "It's yours."
Aww.
So it's been an amazing fit. So I'm very thankful that I was able to pass that along. And he was a good dog. Like he was amazingly tame. So like it was really, really good. Um, let's get back into racing a little bit. I know you haven't really been racing, and you told me this kind of crazy story, which I didn't think can happen. But why don't you just repeat real quickly, in the last 3 years, how many times have you actually been on a bike and still be competitive?
I don't know. Yeah, so at this point, I haven't been on a bike since it would have been July of last year. And so last year I was on a motorcycle 3 times. It was in, I believe, June and July. And 2 of those times were Moto America races, and the other one was a track day. And before that, I hadn't been on a motorcycle in 10 or 11 months. And the last time had been a Moto America round the year before, so that would have been 2018. And I did, I think, 2 Moto America races and maybe a track day.
Yeah.
I didn't do a track day actually leading up to that year. I just went straight into a Moto America race. Hadn't been on a motorcycle in 9 months. Had never been on the motorcycle that I was racing. I borrowed a bike. It was someone else's bike, not set up for me, and just jumped on it at Laguna. And then, yeah, before that, I think the time before had been like 6 months or something. So since I started grad school, basically, I've been on a motorcycle anywhere from like 2 to 4 times a year, pretty much. So
that is truly, to me, it's an incredible story, right? Because, dude, I didn't ride for 3 years. Okay, for whatever reason, I didn't get to ride for 3 years. I still have a CBR 929. I didn't ride for 3 years, and just bringing it back on the street. The first day on the street, I'm like, what if I hit a turn? Do I even know how to like go right or left? Forget trying to go at speed, right? Like just the fact that I'm like, what happens when I come to a stoplight? Is it the left hand that's the clutch, or is it the right foot? And that's like, dude. So I think that's really cool that that muscle memory never went away.
Thanks. I'm not saying that I didn't maybe have those thoughts, but it's one of those things where I overthink. And so I'm like, do I remember how to ride a motorcycle? And I'm so bad, any race weekend though, I'm so bad until I just need to get on a bike. Like, I'll think about it and I'll think about it and I'll think about it and I'll second guess and I'll question myself. And I'm like, I just need to get on a bike and feel it. And then I'm like, okay, yeah, I know how to do this. We're fine. But I just need to get that out of the way.
Yeah, because I have the same thoughts. I used to. I don't do it anymore. I used to do maybe not a fair, but a decent amount of speaking engagement with a large audience of like 200 plus people.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, an hour before it starts, 5 minutes before I'm starting, why did I volunteer for this work? Like this is stupid. It's not my wheelhouse. I'm an introvert. I like sitting behind the computer all day, just look at my computer screen. I don't want to talk to you. I don't want to talk to you. I definitely don't want to talk to you. And I'd be like, I don't understand why I'm doing this. And every time, as soon as I get on stage, I don't want to sound like I did a great job, but at least people couldn't tell I was nervous.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I think that's a superpower we share. Because honestly, if you're able to just jump on a bike and be able to ride it, that's pretty cool.
I think I've just done it long enough that that's why.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's a superpower.
Now, one thing it's almost like a theme on this podcast is people transitioning from one job to another job, right? Yeah. And one of the things I told Andrew Lee, in fact, the first thing I told Andrew Lee right off the beginning is like, dude, you have my dream job, okay? And so in my mind, I think it's kind of crazy that you went from being a racer to being, a doctor, right? Chiropractic. When did you decide that was a life goal that you wanted to achieve?
To be honest, I always knew racing was not going to be my job. And I never wanted to plan on it being my job. I never wanted to put all of my eggs in that basket. I always wanted not a backup plan at all. I always had another plan. You know, racing was just something that I did while I could do it and still want to, you know, as long as I can. But it was never something that I was going to put everything to the side for. Like I knew I wasn't going to make a living off of it. I mean, hardly anybody does, especially in this country. And I had seen, I guess, a lot of people that, you know, when their racing career was over, they didn't really have a fallback. You know, they didn't really know what to do. And I that was never going to be me. And so I wanted to do something along the lines, like I wanted to do physical therapy since I was 8, pretty much. And then I never took a break from school ever. Like I went straight through, all through my education. And so when I was at Fresno State, I was a kinesiology major for my undergrad. And a really good friend of mine, we had lost touch. We got back in contact. She had just started graduate school for her doctorate in chiropractic. And I had seen a chiropractor, but I didn't really know all that chiropractors could do and all that they were trained for. And so she convinced me to go check out the school that she was going to. She's like, we'll make a weekend of it, you know, we'll hang out, whatever. I'm like, okay. So I went up, and that weekend I pretty much decided I'm doing this. Like, this is what I'm going to do, be a chiropractor. And I can't believe my father raised me and said this, but I got home and I told him, yeah, I'm doing it. I'm going to be a chiropractor. And he's like, so my dad's a pretty big dude, and I'm 5'2", like 115 pounds. And he was like,
right.
You're going to have to adjust like really big guys like me, though. Like, do you think you can do that? And I was like,
yeah.
You literally raised the daughter that you raised. Like, are you kidding me right now? And I was like, I'm definitely going to be a chiropractor now. So, yeah.
Nice. Now, it's kind of crazy how at 8 years old, you kind of already had a path, right? Everybody at 8 goes, I want to be a doctor, I want to be a firefighter.
Yeah.
That wasn't a very typical choice.
Yeah. Well, so my mom, when I was 8, got into a really bad car accident, and she had to go to physical therapy. She injured her ankle pretty badly. And that was my first introduction to physical therapy. And I don't know, she would get home and tell me about physical therapy and tell me about what she did. And I'm like, I could tell people what exercises to do all day, you know, as an 8-year-old.
Right. Yeah.
And so I wasn't like positive that's what I'm going to do. But since I was 8, that was kind of always my, this sounds interesting. So maybe, but like that was always on the table.
Wow.
I'm lucky in that way. I really think I'm lucky because I watch a lot of people, and you know, it takes a lot of people a lot of time to figure out what they want to do. And I'm like, gosh, I couldn't imagine, like, and it's not like I'm impressive. It's just like I got lucky that I had the experiences that I had to fall into the paths that I fell into.
Yeah, that's great, because I still don't know what I want to do in life, and I'm old. I'm old as F. So like it's crazy. Like just the other day I was talking to my wife. I'm like, maybe be a cop. Because I have a friend who's a cop, and the wife. This is a little while ago. Actually. I'm lying. It wasn't recently, but it's about 6 years ago. My buddy came over, full uniform, with the car, knocking on the door, and the wife answered, and she's like, "Ooh, man, he looks cute in a uniform." I goes, "Hey, honey, you think you could be a cop?" And I said, "Not only would I not qualify, but I'm colorblind. So being right-wing colorblind immediately stops me from being a firefighter or a police officer. So there goes that dream."
Yeah. Well,
yeah. What are you gonna do?
You have plenty of time though. Like.
Yeah. And that's why I wanted this podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I totally. I'll just do well in the podcast. Yeah. Let me go back to racing. Racing as a kid. You told me earlier that it was you who decided you wanted to go racing, and you basically took the family along for the ride. How did you discover that's something you kind of wanted to do? Like, how did you figure that out, even that exists?
Well, everything was totally on accident. So I grew up on 50 acres out in the country, like in the middle of nowhere. And we always had like vineyards on our land. And around this time, I don't even know how long before, they had tore out all the vineyards and they were supposed to plant, some other stuff on the land. And they didn't. And so it was just flat dirt, acres and acres of flat dirt. And my cousin, um, my mom's best friend, her husband and kids, like they were like family. So they were like my aunt, uncle, and cousins. And they lived 5 minutes from us. And my aunt would babysit us all the time because she worked in the school system. So my parents worked full time, but she had our vacations off. So I was always over there. So it was my two cousins who were boys and then my brother. And so the boys, the cousins, got a little 50, like PW 50 dirt bike. And I mean, we were super competitive with each other, all of us.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to ride it. And my uncle let me ride it once. And that was all I got. I got once. And so after that, I guess I went home and I was like, I want a dirt bike. That's what I want. And so for Christmas, my parents got my brother and I dirt bikes.
How old were you at the time?
I was 8.
Okay, right.
And only meant to ride around the house, around the property, because we knew nothing about racing. And after a couple months, my dad's coworker and his kid, they used to race flat track. And they said, hey, you should come out and try this. And so we went out. I got second on my first race. And we were like, yeah. And then we did it like every weekend after that. So
that's amazing.
Yeah.
So once you or your dad or your family realized that you were good at this, what did they do to develop that? Did you just let you ride? Did you have a coach? How does that even work?
No coach. Yeah, we just rode. I mean, we just did it a lot. And I raced flat track for, I think, like 7 years before I started road racing. And there were people here and there that helped out. I had gone to American Super Camp. I had gone to Rich Oliver's Mystery School. I know, oh man, I'm forgetting. A couple people just kind of like helped out.
Sure.
And I mean, mostly we figured it out, honestly. Like, yeah. I figured out the riding thing. My dad figured out the wrenching thing. Like, it was trial by error.
Wow.
So.
Yeah, that's amazing. So let me ask you this then. I all of a sudden lost my train of thought. Oh, I know. Okay, what gave you the transition to road bikes?
So when I don't even know how old I was. I don't even know what year it was. I was probably around 14, 15, maybe 14. A buddy that I raced flat track with, he lived up in like Washington, and it was Mickey Fay, and he was like, hey, I'm trying out for this Red Bull Rookie Cup thing. And I had no idea what it was. I was like, oh, okay. He's like, you should try out. I was like, all right. So I sent in an application. I was like, there's no way, I'm going to get this. I'd never been on a road race bike or anything. Yeah. And I got the opportunity to go try out. And I didn't know what I was doing. And they pretty much tell you in like the rider's briefing type thing, if you wreck these bikes, like you're going home, like you are not making it.
Right.
And I don't remember. I think I was like decent. I think I was okay. I know I was going into turn 1 really well because all the dudes after were like, dude, how are you going in so fast? I was like, I don't really know what I'm doing. But I ended up wadding the bike. And I had gotten really close to all the mechanics, actually, because instead of being upstairs playing, they had video games and all stuff. Instead of being there, and I was always this kid who would like hang out with people, like the adults, the kids sitting at the adults table, because that was more interesting. So I was down with the mechanics like the whole time, like talking to them, BSing with them, getting to know them. And so when I fell and I got hauled back in to pit lane, like 8 of them or 6 of them were like around me, and I'm sitting there and I'm like, dude, I'm gonna cry. And they're like, no, but you did so great. No one's wrecked a bike this hard this weekend yet. Like, yours was the best. And I'm like, I'm so done. And so, but anyway, one of the guys that I had met was Josh Bartnick. And he lived in Southern California. and he was the suspension tech for the Rookies Cup, and he was a really great guy, and we got to be really good friends. And he basically said, like, yeah, get a road race bike and I'll help you out. And so we started buying an SV 650 in pieces. One of my flat track buddies who lived close to us had bought an SV just for the motor because they use them for flat tracking. And so we had a frame. So we got that frame. We drove to Vegas to pick up a motor. So it took us a couple years to piece together this bike while I was racing flat track. And I had borrowed an R6 and done like a couple track days on an R6 after the Rookies Cup tryouts. And finally, after a couple years, we had my bike. And Josh went to that first year racing. He was, every time I was at the track, he was there helping out. Like, if it wasn't for him, we would not, if it wasn't for the relationship that I had built with him during the Rookies Cup tryouts, even though I didn't make the Rookies Cup, like, that is what got me started into road racing. He totally took me under his wing, taught me a lot about, because I knew nothing about, again, riding a street bike or anything. So he helped me out with the riding, he helped me out with the tuning, helped me out with just meeting people and connections, and yeah, it's kind of it from there.
Oh wow, that's cool. Do you still miss the competitiveness of riding, or have you translated that competitive spirit to what you do now?
Oh, I'm competitive in everything that I do. But mostly with myself, and that I think is why racing was so good for me all the time. Because it allowed me not only to be competitive with those around me, but also like I could set my own goals for myself, my own lap times that I wanted, things like that. I do, like, I'm not going to say I don't miss the competitive side of racing. Like I 100% do. I don't know. I was talking to someone about it today. I don't even remember. I think it was a patient or something. But no, I definitely miss it, but I definitely don't need motorcycles to be competitive because I'm just competitive.
Get into a game of tiddly winks and you'll be like, listen, that's 2 out of 3 and there's $50 on the line.
I'm not like that bad. It's mostly with myself, but I love it. My boyfriend, he's naturally pretty good at stuff, but I beat him at almost everything so far, and I love it. I'm like, okay, because it's not easy to beat him at things, but I still beat him. So.
Yeah, no, that's good. When I met my wife, when she was my girlfriend, I think she said at one time, she's like, do you think I should ride? I said, hell no. And she's like, why not? I go, because I just don't want you beating around the corner. Like, the last thing I want is just for you to go, and I'll be like, I suck at that too. So, no, and it's great that, you're so, like, you're competitive, but you're good-natured about it, seems like, as well. Which is good. It sounds like. I mean, I don't know you very well, obviously.
No, I feel like I'm pretty good-natured about it. Again, I beat myself up. I don't really I don't get too bad with other people. It's mostly like me. Like, ask Derek, who was my crew chief for a while, and my dad. Like, they'll tell you, like, I am never satisfied with my performance. Yeah. Pretty much. Yeah. Which is, it's good because it always pushed me, it always made me be better at things, but it is extremely stressful and frustrating for me, but it's fine.
I think that's a character trait of a lot of extreme, if not every extreme winner I've ever met, is that idea that no matter how good you do, you could be the best guy, you could be top of the podium, and then you'd be like, damn it, if I had just gone like that much earlier, opened the throttle that much earlier, in turn 3, I would have gone that much faster. But, those are just things that, again, winners, have in their head that regular guys like me be like, oh, I thought I did all right. How long have you been a chiropractor now, and what is business like with COVID?
So I've been a chiropractor for just over a year. I graduated in March of last year, and the clinic that I work at, we have been super fortunate. So the county that we're in, I mean, total, there were like 40 something cases, and only 1 death. I mean, still very unfortunate, but like our numbers are low in the county. Yeah. And so a lot of chiropractic offices shut down, a lot of them. Like, there's a close knit group of girls that I graduated with. There's 3 of them, and all 3 of their offices Actually, one might not have, but she wasn't seeing many people. All three of their offices shut down. So a lot of chiropractors shut down, and we didn't. But our numbers definitely dropped, and they're still low. I've been working probably about half time during this whole thing, which I'm super fortunate to still be working. But we've been taking all the precautions, like wearing masks, sanitizing everything constantly, things like that. And yeah, so it's been different, but I think we're fortunate in the area that we're in.
Yeah, I flip flop back and forth between this, right? I've got parents that are, at an age where they're totally at risk. My mom has high blood pressure. My dad's a diabetic, so like they're definitely at risk.
Yeah.
But I'm at a point where like I think I'm done. Like I went to visit them just last week, and I go, let's just go sit in the backyard, let's have lunch. We'll try to stay 6 feet apart. We'll try really hard. My mom can't do it. My mom's just like hugging, touching, and I'm like, not, right. So and I'm like, when do you need to go home? I go, I need to go home when I need to use the washroom because I'm not gonna go in your house. I'll try to be, safe. But anyways, I think I'm at a point where like, I think if you're young enough, and if you think you don't have no underlying health conditions, I think you almost let's just get it. Let's just get it and get it over and done with. Because the numbers up there is not big as what the projections are, right? So I think in the beginning they're saying 300,000 deaths, and this and that, and it hasn't hit that yet. I don't know. I maybe I'm kind of being rude here, but I just feel like we're eventually going to get it anyway. Let's just get it now and get it over and done with. So I'm going on with my life.
Yeah, I don't know. It's it's hard to know all the facts of a novel virus when you're in the middle of a global pandemic. Like the numbers they're not accurate, and they're not going to be accurate for a while. We're not going to really kind of know until everything's said and done. And I mean, for me as a healthcare provider, like I definitely, there's no way I want it. And it's not selfish. It's because I treat patients, and that was a worry, honestly, in the beginning. Was like, what do we shut down? Like, what do we do? Or do we just take all the precautions and do our best? And, because we're in close contact with people every day. And so that's hard. And yeah, I mean, my parents are both high risk as well. And I have not let them visit me. My dad was like, they were going to come back a week after I moved here, and they were so excited. And I was like, no. So I worry for my parents. I worry for my patients. Like, whether the numbers are skewed or not, like there's no way I want to be a vector. Like, I don't want to be. I don't. That worries me.
Yeah, exactly. No, I get it, and me as well. Like, although I did visit my parents, I've still been very, very good. I don't go shopping. I don't go eat out. I don't even do takeout. Right? Like, I'm fairly careful with it. I know I support my local community. I'm supposed to support my local communities, but like, there's a group of guys at the local Walmart who just was tested positive. So I mean, again, I'm just trying to do my part to be safe, but I also understand. I mean, eventually you're just going to come to a point where it's not sustainable, right? The patients you have need help. Let's be honest. I mean, you guys are doing a wonderful service. That's a necessity for some. How did you get involved, or how did you meet Derek, and how did he become your crew chief?
So Derek, well, I had to be only, what year was it? It was either 2012 or 2013. I think it was 2013. So it was my second year racing pro, basically, and in road racing. And someone that I had race club racing with, there was a memorial race an endurance race, and it was a memorial race though as well. But we ended up, he asked me to be on an endurance team on like a little 85, basically, on like a kart track. And so I was like, yeah, I'll do it. Yeah. And Derek so happened to be on the team as well. And we just built a relationship. We hung out that weekend. We talked. We got to be friends, and he was a test rider, and he is like a good rider in general. Like he's done well for himself for sure. Yeah. And so I was like, hey, it's my second year, on a 600, and we were struggling. The bike we were on had electrical gremlins the entire time. We were so fed up with it. And so I was like, would you be willing to go to a track day at some point and just like help me out a little bit? And he said, yeah. And so we went to a couple track days. We rode together, things like that. And about 8 months into the friendship, and we were buddies, we would just chat. And 8 months into the friendship, he calls me up one day, and because we were going to sell my Gixxer and we were going to get an R6 because everyone had an R6. And yeah, it was nice being on a bike that no one was on, but it was really not nice in the sense that when things broke down at the track, which we had a lot of issues with that thing, not that it's not a great bike, just we had a lot of electrical gremlins.
Sure.
No one has spare parts. And so it was just for like, we need to be on something with more support, at least at the track, people that we know that we can get spare parts from.
All
and
right.
so Derek calls and he's like, hey, I know you guys are going to get an R6 and da-da-da-da, but like, if I buy a Cowie, will you race it? Like, dude, you can buy whatever you want and I'll race it. Yeah. And so he bought a 600. And that next year, went racing on it. And he was my mechanic. He was my crew chief. He was my, sponsor. And it just kind of went from there. And that was his first time crew chiefing.
Right.
And it was awesome. Like we had a couple bumps in the beginning, I think, but like now we're like brother and sister pretty much. And
Sure.
I can say whatever I want to him, and I love that. I loved coming into my pit and being able to be pissed off and being able, because at the track, like for me especially, it was really important for me to be as professional as possible as a female racer. Like, not that I play the female racer card, because I don't. I hate that label, actually. But regardless, I didn't need any reason for anyone to say anything bad. And like being a kid growing up, and I was like, no. So I wanted to be very professional all the time, and I wanted to represent my sponsors well. And so, there was no cussing, there was, nothing like that. But with him, I could come in the pit and I could be mad, I could say whatever I want, I could, joke around like the dudes in front, like I could whatever, and it was great.
Yeah.
So it was that comfort level, which was so nice for me. But it was also, we got to the point where he just understood me and I understood him, like understood my riding style, understood what I needed out of the bike. And we could just talk to each other. That's hard. Like that communication, is hard. You don't have that with everybody. And it's really nice to have with the person wrenching on your bike, trying to set it up for you so you can go fast and perform. So yeah, no, it was great.
Wow. How easy is it for you, because you're so competitive? Okay, you're very competitive. How hard is it for you, or how easy is it for you to ride around the problem as to trying to fix an issue? Like that communication with your crew chief is important, but sometimes you're like, F it, I'm just gonna do it. Yeah, but that's detrimental to your racing as well, right?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure riding with what I had was like, I was gonna say one of my talents. That was one thing I was really good at, because I did start. When I grew up racing flat track, we didn't have the best equipment. We didn't have the best setup. Like, we hardly knew what we were doing, for a while. And so I learned to ride anything, whether it was set up for me or not. Because suspension was definitely one thing that we were, in flat track, like that's not something we mastered.
Right.
And I'm fairly light, and so having me on a bike is definitely not the same setup as a lot of people. And so then that transferred into road racing. Like, again, when we had Josh, it was great. Josh set up the bike. When we had Grant, we worked with Grant as well, off and on Matsushima. It was great because he set up the bike. When you have Derek, it was great. But like on the days that they're not there, dude, suspension doesn't get changed.
Okay.
And maybe it does a little, but really it's not the same. And so No, I definitely learned to ride what I had, no matter whether it was set up for me, whether, I mean, again, even road racing, we did it on a budget. We never had the best equipment ever. And so I, I think, yeah, I don't know. I would probably ride around it more than anything. But if something was issue, like I'd tell Derek, like if this is different, I can go faster. Like I know I can go faster if this is different. Or, sometimes he'd have to pull it out of me, and I'd be like, no, it's fine. Are you sure? Yeah, it's fine. And he would, ask questions in a methodic way. I don't know, and like pull it out of me, and I'd be like, all right. But I mean, sometimes really and not all the time, but sometimes like it really just is you. Like it really just is the rider. And it's that kind of thing that, you know, a really, really fast individual is going to be able to jump on a bike and go fast, whether it's set up for them, whether it's slow, whether anything, not that they're maybe going to, be king of the world or anything, but it doesn't, the equipment takes you so far.
Yeah.
You have to rely on yourself as well. So it's a balance.
Sure, that makes sense. Yeah, no, and I've said this on the podcast before. I knew like after the second track day that I was never going to be fast. It didn't matter who was going to teach me. This wasn't going to happen. I just don't have that natural ability to say okay, I'm going to take this turn and I'm just going to hold it at this throttle and lean this much and pray that the tires will work. Like I'm just too much of a worrywart. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to make it. I'm not going to back off. And then I just don't have that.
I would say though that, yeah, I mean, there is some natural ability, natural talent, but like, have you read Outliers ever?
I have not.
So it's a really good book. But it's basically like, yeah, we all, see these people that are amazing at these things, and we want to believe like, they're just born with it. But, you talk to a lot of these people that are experts, at what they do, or professionals at what they do, and they put the time, they put a lot, they dedicate that time and effort into it. In that book, it's 10,000 hours is like the magic. Then you're
right.
expert at something. But I do believe that to a certain extent, like sometimes people are gifted with certain, it comes easier maybe, but I don't think anyone gets to the top level at natural ability alone.
That's right. Yeah, no, I believe that. I think I read a book, Tiger Mom, something Tiger Mom. Anyways, yeah, it's a book about an Asian lady and the way she raised her kids, right? And it came down to there's no such thing as geniuses. It comes down to they have a natural ability to do something. You can see the spark, and then you just work at it and you work at it and you bring that gift out of them, right? There's nobody that just wakes up and goes, "Hey, I can ride really fast on a motorcycle." It just doesn't happen, right? So no, I believe that. Are you gonna ride next year or the full-ish part-time-ish? Is that done? Or if somebody offered you a ride today, you'd be like, okay, let's do it.
I don't know. It's a very frustrating thing because every year, when I'm done with the last round that I'm doing, I'm like, I don't know if I'm riding next year. It's been like that for the last few years. And I mean, I would love to, absolutely. But right now it's like last year was really frustrating, especially frustrating for me. We got a bike that no one else in the country was racing, basically, and had to piece it together. And it could be competitive, I'm sure. Yeah. It's just not. And you need the proper finances and time to put into it to make it competitive. And I just don't have that. Yeah. And so, like, if someone was like, hey, I have this bike, and we could, set up the rounds that I do and figure that out, and it was funded, or I could find the funding for it, which we always get lucky, and we do. Absolutely. Yeah. I would never go. Yeah, I don't know. I just couldn't drop everything else, and I wouldn't drop everything else.
Yeah.
But if there was a way to do it, no, I totally would.
Yeah. As a racer of the female persuasion, notice how I didn't say female racer.
I love that.
And I'm sure you've been asked 1,001 times, but honestly, is it easier being a girl in a man's world? I mean, in some way it is. And let me back this up, okay? I've got a couple of female developer, like software developer friends. Uh, Forget the fact that they're attractive. I don't even think it matters. But going through school and watching them go through school, they actually hadn't. I don't want to sound sexist, but they had a slightly easier time simply because you're a female in a man's world. It was already like the ratio was like 1 to like 100, and so anytime they had a question about how do I write this in this language, you'd have the help that you need, right? And part of it is because every other guy was like, oh, she's cute and she's a girl, then I want to help, and so that sounds really bad. Now just think about what I just said. I apologize. That sounds offensive, but you know what I'm getting at. Let's be realistic, right?
I do.
In a way, yeah.
Yeah, and I am 100. I can say this with 100% certainty and satisfaction that I never played the female racer card. And I never, like, I don't know, there's a reason I didn't do women's races when they were offered, I didn't, for me, it was always a really, really high priority to get wherever I got, having nothing to do with my gender. And I believe I did. And because, yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've all seen it, maybe that some individuals have gotten to a level that you're like, that doesn't make a lot of sense. And I saw it and I didn't respect it and I didn't want that. And I'm not saying, I don't want to offend anyone. So if I did, I'm super sorry. But you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I just didn't want that. I didn't want to be seen as a female racer. I just wanted to be a racer and I just wanted to be good, because there were too many times in flat track when I was a teenager or kid where I got, oh, you're really fast for a girl. And that is such an insult. It's like, really? So I'm just not, compared to the dudes, I'm slow, but I'm fast for a girl. No, that was never okay with me. I'm not like a pink and purple girl anyway, but there was no way I would ever have pink on my bike, on my leathers, on anything, because I wanted it known. I don't care if I'm a girl or a guy. I just don't want that known. And I guess one thing that I said, I was a teenager, I was flat tracking in an interview, and I totally forgot I said it. And my dad remembers, and he's brought it up, and I'm like, oh, this is so something I say, and I love it. I guess I used to do Gene Romero's races. He passed away within the last year or so. He was a great, great guy, but he was super fast in his day. But he used to have a series that he held races on the West Coast, and his races were great. And one of the things about his races were every racer would do a parade lap, and then they'd line up, on the front straight facing the grandstands, and then whoever the announcer was would go and just interview random people. And I was really close to a lot of the people that ran the organization, and they knew me. And so I'd get interviewed pretty frequently. And I remember, well, I guess I didn't remember. My dad remembers. But one time someone asked me, oh, what does it feel like being a female out here with all the guys? And I said something to the extent of, well, I'm pretty sure the bike doesn't know whether I'm a male or female, so it doesn't feel any different, But that's how I want it, yeah.
Yeah, and I totally respect that. I don't think it should matter. I think motorcycling, if anything, is one of the few sports where you can have that equal footing. I mean, obviously, men and women today in 2020 probably cannot play football together. I mean, at the NFL level, and it's just because there is a bit of structural differences, right? But once you're on a bike, as long as you have the endurance, the ability to last on the bike, to be able to handle the bike for the whole race, there should be no difference in my mind.
Yeah.
So no, and I really respect that. Honestly, I think that's what I wanted to hear, and that's why I wanted to have you on my podcast, because I want to hear that. I want to hear somebody goes, look, I want to win it on my merit, not because of my gender or my beliefs or anything,
Mhm.
right? We get that too much today, even in a regular workplace where somebody gets ahead simply because they meet a certain criteria that looks good,
Mhm.
right? And not because on their merit. And I truly believe in like a meritocracy. So yeah, that's
Yeah.
awesome.
Well, I
Um,
appreciate that.
yeah, uh, that's good. What do you do now as a hobby, as a sport outside of obviously racing?
Hmm. Let's see. What do I do? Well.
I know you're an interior designer when in your spare time.
Oh yeah. Um. Since moving to Auburn, it's been kind of great. Because we can with COVID, we can still go out and hike and be outdoors. Um. And I have miles and miles of amazing hiking trails, literally in my backyard. And it's great. And so I moved here just over 2 months ago, and I've hiked probably 100 miles with my dog. Um, and so I really like to do that. Harley and I go on runs here and there. I definitely don't do any like team sports. Ball and stick sports are not my. I was probably, I think, good at them when I was a kid, and then
Yeah.
when I stopped doing them and started racing, I'm definitely not good at them anymore. I don't think. Um, so yeah, I would say hiking and running, and yeah, it's probably like the most. I mean, I'll work. I'll my current employer always jokes with me. So no gyms are open or have been open, and so it's like home workouts and bodyweight stuff and things like that. And I was never like super big barbell person or anything. I was always training for endurance and lightweight stuff, maybe some dumbbells, stuff like that. Um, and my employer, she'll ask me, especially in the beginning, she would ask me more. She'd be like, "Oh, do you want to work out after work today?" I'd be like, "Yeah." And I didn't realize it, but I guess I said yeah every time she asked. And she finally told me, she's like, "Man, I really have to, like, I started realizing I have to think about how serious I am when I ask you, because I'm always at like a 70% yes, and you always say yes. And so I just have to like see how, kind of analyze my level of commitment before I ask you, because you're always down." I'm like, so I'm a fairly active individual. Not that I'm super in shape, because I'm not, but I like being active.
Right.
So.
Okay. I really hope that you'll still continue and be able to race and have fun, because that sounds like a hoot. And again, that's my dream job. And I think that's, at the end of the day, that is something that's mindset of a racer, right? It's you don't want to be. It's not that you don't want to be a part of a team, but at the end of the day, it depends on you. You don't have to pass the ball to somebody else for them to screw up the goal, right? It's you, and you trust your ability, and you want to win on your own merit. It's all
Yeah.
about your own merit, right?
Yeah.
Is that how it is?
Yeah. No, absolutely. But it's not a team sport, but it is a team sport.
Yes.
I mean, I never thought I was out there solo. I never felt like that. And for the most part, like I said, I had Josh, I had Grant. I've had some really amazing people helping me, and they were part of my team, and Derek was part of my team, and but for probably the longest stint of time, it was Derek and my dad, or
Mm-hmm.
Grant, my dad, or whoever my dad, but they were my team. Or whoever, we've been fortunate and had some friends come out and help for races here and there. So it absolutely is a team sport. But yeah, at the end of the day, no matter what, as a racer, at least this was my mentality, you're responsible for your performance. And maybe the bike setup got messed up, maybe this, maybe that, but like, you're in the spotlight, that you're still responsible. Um, and it's still it's your team. Maybe that's a good way to say it. Like, it's your team.
Mm,
Yeah. But
yeah.
I liked, like I said, I liked being able to challenge, because I felt like I was challenging and pushing myself. I set my own standards, and if I met them, awesome. If I didn't, really, I had no one to blame but myself.
One final question, I'll let you go because I know it's getting pretty late in your time as well. Um, is there a time where maybe the results didn't show it, but you were completely satisfied with that race or with that track day or with that, you know?
Uh,
Because I can tell you're very, with all due respect, you're very critical of your own
yes.
success, right?
Very, very.
And so, but there's got to be a time where you're like, look, I gave it my all, and maybe I didn't hit a podium, but you know.
I would say there are a few. There are definitely a few. Yeah, and I think mostly in the moment I probably wasn't super stoked, but maybe looking back at it, I know my best race was my first year of grad school, funny enough, probably because I got to go out. I hadn't been on a bike in like 6 months, and I got to go out on a bike, and I was like, I get to de-stress, and it was great. But it was my last year racing 600s, and it was, or no, not my last year. My last year was after that, but it was close. And I had been at Laguna, and Laguna was always my best race. And, you know, I was just out there to have, nah, I'm never just out there to have fun, but I was out there to de-stress a little.
Sure.
And for whatever reason, like that year, something just clicked. And I went to Texas boot camp, Colin Edwards School. And I don't know what it was. I went there right before that weekend, and something clicked, and I had my best year, best finish. I think I finished 12th in the 600 class, which is my best finish. And really, like lap time wise, and I screwed up my start, which never happens. I always used to get really good starts, but I should have been a top 10, and I wasn't. And so I was super frustrated. And then, but looking back at it, like, no, like I'm proud of it. And then like a month later, I went and did a club race and like won all the classes I was in, and like felt like I earned it, like I deserved that. Like it was a club race, but I was like, dude, I'm on top of my lap times were the best they'd ever been at that track too. And then the weekend after, I went and wrecked myself and got airlifted out, and so that kind of went downhill. But yeah, that was my best that year in general. That was my best year, whether the results showed it or not. Like I was proud of how I rode that year.
Wow. All right. Well, I'm gonna save the airlifted story for another day.
Yeah, no, it's not that exciting.
Yeah, but thank you so much for being on the podcast after a hard day of work.
No, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. It was fun.
Okay, cool. Yeah, and we'll touch base, and when you have time, we'll get you back on.
All right, sounds good.
All right, thanks. All right.
Bye. Have a good night.